Hello, everybody, and welcome to Boss Rush's Xbox podcast, Arsenal X. I'm here with that retro code, Edward Varnell. How's it going, Ed?
It's going good. Who are you? Just in case if people know.
I'm the host, Jesse Douglas. Completely forgot to do that because I'm still not used to this.
It's like, who's the white dude?
Yeah,
Hello, everybody.
doesn't matter. I mean, we're here for Ed.
No,
Everyone's here.
We're here to discuss
yeah.
all things Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was kind of something big that, we've been knowing about happening, but is finally finished. That's happened recently
Yes.
that we'll talk about.
It has
And then
been-
I got a little fun topic thing that I came up with because honestly, there, not too much more to talk about this week. It's kind of the big thing, so but yeah, so how's your weekend going? How you doing?
I am doing good. There's been some ups and downs. Been a lot of changes, and most of the ups have been video game related. Definitely with the news and just talking to various people. Some of the down stuff has been like real life things that haven't affected me, but people around me. And so,
Hmm.
it's been last week has been kind of like a mixed week, and definitely with our new writing team that we're still building our boss rush, learning stuff, talking about things, getting working
Hmm.
things out. It's been kind of a crazy last week. I definitely would
Hmm.
say, but overall, I am elated and excited for the things to come. Playing some Nintendo stuff, playing some Sony stuff. Getting ready to watch the Monster Hunter movie tonight. I brought the
Ooh,
4K edition. Yeah, I brought the 4K
nice.
edition, and Lara, who is host of Crossroads, he said that it was a fun popcorn movie. So I got my snacks and everything ready to go. I just gotta get some drinks tonight from work, and then I'm gonna pop it in, put my headset on, and watch it. You, I kind of learned that uh, this is the Wii thing, and the only reason I connected to Nintendo was because when I first started Netflix, I only was watching Netflix on Wii. It was for
Okay.
movies and stuff, because
Yeah.
it was so easy. And I think when Netflix started off, I mean, it was kind of getting popular. I don't know if it was me and Jesse. I don't know if it was you, but Netflix on Wii kind of made them popular. And I think that's when they hit like 360 and PS3 that everybody started streaming movies and everything.
Hmm.
Reason I've connected this to Xbox is anytime I buy a movie or watch a movie, I'm always doing it on Xbox. I will rent one
Yeah.
on. I will rent one for PlayStation if I need to. But now I pop everything in my Xbox for movie related and watch it because I still buy movies. If
Yeah.
I'm streaming a movie, and it's weird. If I'm streaming a movie, I'll stream it on PlayStation. But if I'm doing something on Hulu, I do it through Switch. And it's
Hmm.
weird. Like I have my Netflix in Hulu, also my Xbox. But I'm just like, you know, I have a Slim still, and it has the Ultra 4K on it, so I can watch movies now in the Ultra 4K on my TV. And it's just like putting that headset on, a really good headset on Microsoft,
Hmm.
is wonders. It does wonders for me because
Yeah.
I don't feel like dealing with PlayStation because I think with PlayStation you have to be online to sometimes watch some of the movies. Xbox, you pop it in and you good to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like when you're watching a DVD or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I do buy a lot of movies, but I buy them digitally through the Xbox store
Yes.
just because like if I like what I basically do is, Xbox always has really good deals
Mhm.
on movies where you can get movies for like $4 or $5 to buy it, not just rent it, to buy it for that much. And so what I basically did is I've been trying to uh rebuy my DVD collection that I have,
Yeah.
but like older movies and all that stuff that are harder to find, and like the ones that aren't on streaming services. So basically, like if it's on a streaming service or something, I won't buy it until I know if that movie's gonna go off of the streaming service, then I'll buy it. But yeah, I basically like I trying to like eventually I'd like to one day be able to have my whole collection of movies that I have just all digitally. And I'm just slowly buying them when they're on sale, like one at a time, or even, I've bought some movies that I've always wanted, but I, never got, that were cheap, that were on sale as well. Like I bought the Phantasm movies, and
Okay.
I bought like a lot of horror. I have a lot of horror movies on my digital collection because that's my favorite. So I've got a whole bunch of those like original stuff. Like, I want to get like the Hellraiser movies and stuff like that as well that I like. The
That's
Master of Puppets and
that's the series I
things.
still need to watch, the Hellraiser series, and I love
Oh,
Puppet Master.
yeah, Puppet Master is good. But yeah, because I think I have like already like 90 or 80 movies in my digital collection through Xbox,
Mhm.
through the Xbox store. And then what's nice is, not all of them. I wish all of them. But a good chunk of my movies, then, I can watch through the Movies Anywhere app that I
Yeah.
buy through the Microsoft Store. You can watch them through that. I really wish that they would have did a full-on partnership where or just Microsoft did their own app where you could watch any of your movies that you bought on your
Mhm.
on your store. You could watch through the app, but I'm sure there's some kind of streaming legal issue there that they can't do that for whatever reason. I
Probably a
don't know. I don't.
probably licensing.
Yeah, because I mean it's weird because if you think about it, like I can play those movies on an Xbox, I can play them on a computer, I can, but you can't have that Microsoft Store app on
Hmm.
or like video app on just your phone or something. It doesn't make sense. Like I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of legality to it that
Yeah.
that makes it so they can't do it, but it is what it is. I mean, most times I'm not going to be watching those kind of movies on my phone or whatever anyways. I'm going to be watching on my nice 4K screen and with some good headphones on anyway in the
Yeah.
morning. So
It, it's
so it is what it is.
it surprises me as gamers, and even just that sometimes the stuff that we want for things to happen, we don't know
Hmm.
the behind the scenes stuff that has to happen to even get there. And I think if the community actually, because yes, some people get on Nintendo, some people get on Microsoft, some people get on Sony, but I'm like, if you actually work for these companies and you see all the stuff that they have got to get through to get something on, so they could meet like so they could show the public what they have in store. I think a lot of people will lose their mind. A lot of people will be ready to quit. A lot of people, I think, sometimes don't just understand the stress and the
Hmm.
concern that comes with all of this stuff. So as a gaming community, we could say all of this stuff, but once you start working into this industry, like literally working into stuff, you would never understand uh the behind the scenes stuff that leads up to it and everything.
Yeah.
Even as podcasters and writers and stuff, with like I, me and Corey was talking about this, and it was just like when we get comments or when people say something, whether it's positive or negative, we always, we take it in. We'll probably discuss it among each other, but we'll take notice of it. And I think and this is probably for any content creator, is that when you kind of get negative opinions from or viewpoints from a lot of people who just watch. They don't understand the behind the scenes stuff that goes on. And if they knew everything that went on to get stuff going, they would be like, I can't believe you guys do this much just to produce a show and be able to get all of this out. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of people don't realize that it takes a lot to do. Even if you're not on the production side, you got to be able to come yeah, you got to be able to come and present not only just your opinion, but you got to be a little bit more professional and respectable about it because you are not part of the project or anything. But when you're on a show and stuff like that, you got to show that um, you got to show some not restraint. You got to show some respect among your peers. And there's people who
Hmm.
have like kind of like attitude problems and anger man not anger management and who can easily get a anger and emotional stuff. And you gotta and you gotta realize that uh to like hold it down, like hold back and stuff. Um, you kind of got to show that, and I think a lot of people just don't know that. And then it's the editing process. It's getting the music. It's getting the clips in, setting everything up, the writing, the descriptions, and there's just so much to get out there that if you were doing a lot of stuff, like if you were doing a lot of editing and producing and stuff, you would understand the trials that go with it. If you are a viewer, you would never understand that all that stuff goes in because you're a viewer, you're a fan, or you're just someone who wants to listen to something to fill the void, and
Hmm.
your response. And we don't always ask for give us positive reviews and stuff. All we just care for is that if you're going to give us an opinion, and if it's going to be a negative opinion, for a lot of us, we just want us to be respectable. You just
Yeah,
can't say
productive
you.
productive
Yeah,
criticism. Like
yeah,
when you're anytime you're doing something, that's for, that's obviously for other people. Like we understand that it's, the way we do things isn't always going to be for everyone, and there might be better ways. Like, I mean, I just started, hosting the show, so like it's I'm, way far away from what you or Corey is as far as hosting stuff, because I just don't have the, I just haven't done it. I haven't done it enough. And so I understand it's, it's gonna suck for a little while. I'm not gonna be the greatest at it, but like I've got to just learn things. And yeah, and it's, like, as like you said, it's one thing to be, have productive criticism, and like be saying something that could be perceived as being negative
mhm,
for a good reason. It's not that you're saying it because you're trying to be, a jerk or anything. You're just saying it because you want to help make things better or
right,
whatever. Like, yeah. So there's a
yeah,
difference, but yeah, it's definitely a learning process, all of it.
yeah.
So
And yeah, cause like me and Corey, we tell our hosts like we don't give no opinions, no feedback to you whatsoever. You do what you need to do because I think that's with me and Corey hosting years back, and even before I met Corey doing optional opinion, just audio stuff. Like I've never hosted my own show. I've never hosted anything. I was shocked to even be the MC at a church program. It's just like, okay, what to do? Because sometimes you have to improv. You have to, if something goes wrong, you have to fill in the space and everything. And
mhm,
so it literally took me years. I didn't really get that much feedback or anything about hosting shows and everything. I
mhm,
had to go in. I had to make sure that there was a great flow and that everybody just has fun and everything. And
mhm,
yeah, there's more to that, but I'm like, it took me years to build up. No one is going to be perfect doing anything when they start out.
mhm,
You are going to make your stumbles. You're supposed to make stumbles because you be like, okay, I can make this better. I can make that better. I can make this better. I can work on this. And then when you start getting the flow of things, you're good to go. I just think that when be kind to one another once again,
Hmm.
I be kind to the people who are making games. Be kind to the people who are behind the scenes trying to get stuff together with contracts and everything. Um, and just like you know, when things come, they'll come. When they won't come,
Hmm.
and look, if it don't happen, it don't happen. Don't get mad. There's a lot of content out there for everybody.
Well, yeah, and like, and even when we're, like when we're talking about stuff, and like sometimes, like, I know I've done it plenty of times in the past. Like I'll get on something, if I'm not really liking it.
Mhm.
And sometimes I can maybe be a little bit overly, negative or critical of something. But like a lot of the times when it seems like there's a passionate like passion behind me being overly criticism about
Yeah.
something, it's because I wanted something better of it, and I get it, and and the thing is like, just to anyone listening, don't take me seriously. I am no one but me, myself, and everyone's like ideas of what games are good, and or what movies are good, or that all depends on you. Like, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how you feel about something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we talk about this because it's fun for us, and it's a conversation. Like, obviously there's a lot of people I listen to, podcast shows I listen to, that don't feel the way that I do about most things. But that it is what it is. So I don't take stuff too seriously, because ultimately your opinion is your own, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good someone thinks something is, or how bad someone thinks something
Mhm.
is. It doesn't matter to your likes at the end of the day, because you might end up liking something that's got like a 3 out of 10, like a
Mhm.
game. Like, I know plenty of times I've like, if I was to pay attention to the critics when it comes to movies or games and stuff like that, some of my favorite things that I've ever watched, I probably wouldn't have watched if I would go by what ratings say.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, look at even like Far Cry 5. Like, Far Cry 5, like, it seemed like the majority of people didn't really think that was that great of a game. Like, everyone tried comparing it to 4 and said, 4 was so much better, and blah blah blah, and the story was awful, and this and that. But honestly, like, look, it ended up being my game of the year. Like, I thought it, and I tried going back and playing 4, and I couldn't even finish 4 because I didn't think it was nearly as good, as far as mechanics and everything go. So,
Mhm.
like, at the end of the day, yeah, like, you can be critical about things and stuff like that, and I welcome criticism. But yeah, like, there's already too much negativity in the world. We don't need to, make something we enjoy doing a host for negativity as well. So
Yeah, and I know I could be critical. And like, this is the kind
yeah,
of talk
well,
that talk about criticism, and I know that like everybody just think that Nintendo can't do no wrong in my eyes and stuff, and it's not always that. I'm like, I always say that okay, we're making these we're all yelling at Nintendo, but yell at Nintendo Japan, yell at Nintendo America because Japan are making the decisions. America's only bringing the information over that all the Japanese are doing. So for that to be happening, I think that a lot of people. It's one of the. I think me and LeBron was talking about this. A lot of the people who are Westerneers, I think still don't understand how Japanese business is done. You know, we want to transfer their business to everything American. You know, and it
hmm
feels like Sony is the middle ground because Sony understands the Japanese and American business.
Although they've ducked out now, basically out of the like practically ducked out of the Japanese business, like on their end. They just basically are like, hey, Square Enix, bring Final Fantasy over to us, day
Yeah,
one, and exclusively. We're not going to really do much, in Japan anymore. Their American studios are basically all they have now. Like they don't really do anything in Japan anymore because they're not big there either. I mean, there's no beating
well,
Nintendo.
well, when
So,
it comes, and this is more of a first party thing, yes, because
yeah, first party. That's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, because and no, still with Square Enix, because the thing about it is a third party feel our Japanese fans and American fans. For our first
hmm
party stuff, we're gonna do UK, some people in the UK, some indies, and first party.
Yeah.
Japan, we just if we have any studios, you guys are gonna support them and call it a
hmm
day. Um, yeah, besides maybe Kojima. Kojima might be the only one with Kojima Productions. Other than that, yeah, like Sony is the middle ground. Microsoft is so Western um, that when we don't even think about Japan and Microsoft together. Like, yeah, we could joke about how they're not doing sales and stuff, but we know that Microsoft is a well-focused company here in the Western market.
hmm
Nintendo, even though it is Japanese, even though it is heavily known in the East, it still has a presence in um, here in the West, in like the UK and Australia. The thing about it
hmm
is everybody have their different business plans, and everybody wants something from Nintendo so much uh, that it's kind of hard to be like, well, why get? Do you guys want the same thing from Microsoft and Sony? Because and this is not talking about their online functionality or anything like that. You know, a lot of people just like we want our Metroid, we want our Breath of the Wild, we want all of this. And it's just like you have to wait. You literally have to wait. The same way that we're waiting for Sony, the same way we're waiting for Microsoft with a lot of their stuff, you guys have to wait. And it's so weird that the, the the company that people are still yelling at and not complaining, but still have opinions about is the company that you're still supporting, still waiting for, and everything. And where it's just like you got two of the most powerful systems console wise out and everything. And yes, for some people you can't play them because you can't buy them in a sense.
mm
Uh, but it's just like you got to like you literally gotta wait for stuff and there are there are stuff for Switch, just stuff for Xbox, this stuff for PlayStation. Really, like just go out and play all the stuff that is on there that you can still gather, and when it's time for that stuff to come out, it'll come out.
Yeah, like like people complaining about there not being any games for Xbox or not being, not really being any games for the PS5, or Series X, I should say, or the PS5. But any game that's coming out right now is technically, that's coming out for those consoles is a
Mhm.
game that can be played on there. Like, yes, it's not first party, but like you can't say there's nothing to play. There is things to play. It's just they're not what you want. And if it's two different things, like there's plenty of stuff coming out this year that I want to play on the Series X.
Yes.
Like there's Biomutant, there's
Oh, I cannot wait
there's
for that game.
I know, like, I mean, there, like obviously later Halo and Flight Simulator, and like there's a whole bunch of games that are coming out. Yes, not all of them are first party games, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of games coming out this year that I really want. Resident Evil, the Back for Blood, the Aliens game, like
The
I mean
party,
there's
yeah.
so many things to look forward to. And yeah, maybe they might not be, Series X enhanced day one, but I'm still playing them on the Series X. I'm still using my console. It doesn't matter what resolution it's playing it at. I'm still using my console, and I'm still glad I have my console to play those games. Like I don't quite understand, the people who are, just being overly disappointed, but because I just I've always said first party games. I know I understand I am not in the norm when it comes to first party games.
Mm-hmm.
Like Xbox has always really had the things that I care the most about, but at the same time, at the end of the year, the majority of games, no matter what console it is, the majority of the games that I end up playing on that console are third party, are indie, are whatever. So like there's plenty of stuff to play. And you can't just rely on first party anyways.
And this might lead into our Bethesda discussion.
Yeah.
in a sense. I'm so sorry, Jesse, for the is that I know we were talking on Boss Rush about Bethesda and exclusivity and what does this mean for Sony and Nintendo, and I think we all kind of agreed that Nintendo Sony is going to be okay. Bethesda, definitely for Bethesda and Nintendo, I definitely would say this is their first time working together to have games on their systems. Bethesda has never supported Nintendo in the long run that I know of. Yes, they've definitely been supporting Sony and everything. Definitely, I think started with PlayStation 3. I think same way with 360. Well, no, Xbox One. No, the original Xbox had Morrowind. So that's when Bethesda kind of started getting their foot into console. But like Nintendo and Bethesda or ZeniMax, I think are fine. We got a couple of games. And if they want to bring something else, they can. I think Nintendo was just happy to be like, hey, thank you guys for supporting us, for putting your games on our platform, and they seen a reward for that. If they don't get no more, I'm like, do you not? I'm like, Nintendo has now considering Bethesda as a first party developer for Microsoft. You know that Nintendo's first party is still stronger than Bethesda all day long. You can argue up and down all you want to. What game of Bethesda is doing 32 or some million like Animal Crossing New Horizons? I don't think many has. So Nintendo is.
I don't know.
For Bethesda first party, what game has actually hit 16 plus million copies? Oh, and don't forget, one system. Bethesda has always now that they're first. But
I mean, like.
Oh, not just using it as an example. I'm not saying that.
Well, I don't have numbers in front of me, but I would be willing to say that it easily did that much, or if not more, on PC, like some of the Elder Scrolls games.
Well, probably so.
Because like the Elder Scrolls Online, I think they had like, what was it, like, I forget what they said. Wasn't it like 18 million people playing it, or I don't. Probably. So like more than that would have it, obviously the game, but I don't know. But like that's also a massive MMO game, so it's I mean, it's I don't know. Like we'll just move away from the whole Nintendo stuff and all that anyway.
But like talking in a sense of first party, I think Nintendo has stronger first party, so that's why I'm saying they're not worried about Bethesda. I think they still support Bethesda if they want to bring some games in, because Nintendo's not competing with Bethesda. I think Nintendo just like at the time before all of this happened, Nintendo was just happy to have some titles from them. Same with Sony. Sony has done record sales numbers.
Well, we don't even have to pick platforms when we're talking about this, honestly, because in reality, third party third party games in general, you're not competing with third parties in general. That's just kind of the like when you make it when you have a console like the Xbox, you want third party games to be on your console, so there's
Mhm.
so there's plenty of stuff to play when you're not coming out with first party. So you're not really ever competing with third party
It's so
because you
it's
need
so funny.
you
It's so
need
funny.
you need third party just as much as you need
It's
first
so
party.
it's so funny that you mentioned that, because why is Nintendo the only one that people always said that they're the only ones that's competing with third party? It's never Sony or Microsoft, and Nintendo isn't trying to compete with third party. Everybody just like
No
to,
one competes with third party.
but
There's no reason
everybody
to.
always
You have to
every
have them there.
every there are some people reasoning that Nintendo first party is trying to compete with third, and I've never understand why. I agree with you. No one is None of the first party, none of the companies are trying to compete with third party. Third party people want them to come to that console, but it's always saying that Nintendo is always doing it, and it's just like, I know this is an Xbox show, not Nintendo, blah blah, but it's just like Nintendo has never tried to compete with anybody. They are, yes, their first party is to support their platform, because you want games to support the platform, but they're not trying to compete with anything. Are they?
Well,
Are
no
they?
one's no one's making no one's making the kind of no one's trying to make those like strong like family friendly
Yeah,
like IP that Nintendo's doing, so there really is no one for them to compete with
be right.
anyways, because no one's really trying to do that. Microsoft and PlayStation, like they've there's always been that rival there because they're the consoles that are most similar to one another. And so like, their first parties are going to try to rival PlayStation's first parties and back and forth.
If
But yeah, no one ever competes with third party because one, I'll be honest, I think a lot of the times, no matter how great a first party game
mhm.
is, I'm always going to find a third party game that I probably like better,
And
in some form of way. But that's besides the point. I think it's just there's no reason for anyone to compete with a third party
party,
because they're
and
looked
it's
at as being neutral.
and
They're not an ally, they're not an enemy. They're just a neutral. It's a neutral thing.
right, and you would literally think that if anyone was going to compete with third party, it would be Microsoft and Sony, because they have that power, they have those
Yeah.
designers, they have that talent that should rival Activision and EA and stuff like that. But then they was just like, no, Mario Party is rivaling Madden. Like, that doesn't
Yeah.
make no kind of
Well,
sense. You know?
like yeah, because yeah, yeah, and I think I mean, don't get me wrong. There is a need for these companies to try to make their first party games be
Yes.
the best game, that run the best on the hardware that they made.
Yes.
Obviously they're going to try to make their games outperform most times third party games as far as using the hardware. But outside of that, yeah, there really is no competition.
There's-
It's more of just, yeah, everyone, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, when it comes to first party, they're doing their thing. And whatever, third party releases and it comes on their console, they're glad to welcome it there because they need, more than anything, they need that third party support. Like
Yeah.
Nintendo's Wii U and stuff like that was a perfect example of how, like, and like, like all they had was their first party. They didn't have third party, and that's why the Wii U didn't sell very well.
And that's a power block discussion that's going to be happening in a couple of weeks, because
Yeah.
it's because just quickly about that, it it fell on deaf ears. It's a deaf ear situation with that one. So I'm
Mhm.
just going to leave it at that. We'll talk about that on power
Yeah.
block.
Yeah.
I think with Bethesda and Microsoft, we know that Microsoft does have a decent right now first party, first party lineup of games. I think Bethesda ZeniMax in general is going to up it and stuff. So I think right now Microsoft's first party is going to take more recognizing
Yeah.
also, recognition.
Recognition. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
everybody. And I think that's what is important. I don't think it's so much Bethesda hitting Game Pass. Whatever,
Well, I mean
okay,
that is important. That is important
it
for
is.
them
It is
that service is much more
important to
you know
Microsoft.
yeah, it's much more like gonna catch people's eyes if they see those big games, those big Bethesda
Which is
games
the
on
rec-
there.
which
So
is yeah, which is the recognition. You want
yeah,
people to be like, oh, Microsoft got some really nice first party games. Oh, they're coming out with a strong first party lineup. Okay, yeah, now they're ready to play. Now they're ready to be on the battlefield because right for Microsoft right now with their first party at least needs to have two games in any kind of game on the list, game of the year categories. I don't care what category that they fall on, they need that. And if ZeniMax could help them and their other studios get to that level of getting that on there, then we know that they are bringing it. That they're going to have strong
yeah.
quality of games coming on. Because the thing about it is, of course, we're doing our own Game of the Year show like later on in the year. Hint, hint.
hmm
Uh, we know
Which
that
is
we
gonna
got.
be it's gonna be a weird year though. I mean, because this year is just a really weird year. Like I said,
Mhm.
there's gonna be plenty of good games coming out this year. But I do think that this year is a really good year for some of these indie games and stuff to really get some really good
I,
chances at winning
I,
some awards this year.
I'm going to tell you, I don't know what Microsoft or Sony is really doing like this summer, but Nintendo. Sorry for bringing Nintendo up. We're doing a show like for Nintendo like in a couple of weeks of all the games that's coming. Nintendo got summer locked up badly, and if Microsoft could get those same indie games, almost like Nintendo, maybe even PlayStation, if they could get that locked up too, it's going to be phenomenal. Whether they put it on Game Pass or not, it's going to be like, look, we need to talk about these games on Xbox now because yes, Nintendo will already have that stuff, but we need people to double dip, and we need them to double dip on our platform. So Microsoft got, I literally believe that hey, if Microsoft is so, it's not inside Xbox, but ID Xbox or something, for the indie
Oh
stuff.
yeah. That's ID Xbox. Yeah,
ID
ID at
Xbox.
Xbox.
They need to highlight stuff this summer. Like they really need to get into that indie space because
Well,
think about. Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
I was just gonna say, well, they, the Inside Xbox, like they do an Inside Xbox episode every week.
Hmm.
Like so, like this, they do a this week on Xbox, and every week they basically showcase indie games that are coming out or that are on the console already.
Uh,
So like they do that, but like like you've just got to be in that in that space, I guess. Like I do watch those every once in a while, I because I'm subscribed to them on YouTube, and I follow it on Twitter and all those kinds of things. But yeah, like if you're like me and like and Xbox is your main focus,
hmm
we do see a lot of that stuff through there. But that's the thing, is like it's not a showcase that's being done with all glitz and glamour like during like an E3 type thing. But
Yes.
they are promoting that stuff every single week. They're promoting indie games and stuff like that, and talking about new stuff that's coming out, and like their YouTube is just filled with trailers for new games and and all that stuff all the time. So Like if you're interested in stuff that's coming out and you're mostly an Xbox player, I highly suggest you follow their YouTube page and watch that like this week on Xbox and stuff like that, because there's so much stuff there that they go over and talk about a lot of indie games, especially if you're a fan of indie games.
Mhm.
They do try to get stuff out there. I think it's unfortunately like we even see it with our show, right? There's a group of people who like to watch our show on YouTube,
Yeah.
and but the majority of people tend to like to listen to most podcasts
Yes.
audio only, because then they can do that. They can listen while they're doing other things. Well, it's like when you've got so many mediums for entertainment, it's so easy nowadays for things to just get lost in the fray. And so like things like that this week on Xbox and all that stuff, unless you're paying attention to those kind of things, it's so
Yes.
easy to miss it.
Yeah. And
And
I
that's why E3 and things happen, is because they're trying to push past, push like ahead of everything and just try to be the main focus. And this, honestly, this could be a whole topic in itself of just talking about why I think personally E3 needs to continue to happen in some form.
and I,
Like
and I think
we need to get those games out in front of everything, because it's too easy for things to get lost in the fray these days.
E E3 is it's always been important because it's the
Yeah.
thing, and this is not even for content creators or anything. It, like you said, it is
Yeah,
it's
for the
the
game.
top, right. It's about the games, and it's the top way to get the word out about stuff that's coming or that's dropping. That's going to be surprised. That's going to make you look forward to what's coming in the following part of the year and for next year. It's been where when it came to E3 definitely back in the 80s and 90s, if you was going to
Hmm.
do anything with E3, you're unless you was there to be at the show, you were reading about it the next month in
Hmm.
EGM or GamePro, because that's what I had
Yeah,
to do. I couldn't make it at E3 as a kid. Now that
yeah,
it's more available to watch, I'm tuned into E3 because I want to see what everybody got to say. Now, I could admit, and, and Jesse and Corey could admit this too. Every time we've seen maybe the last two E3s of Bethesda, we have been like, "What is this mess?"
yeah,
Ubisoft, what is this? Like we have been feeling bored. It's gonna be a whole different
yeah,
situation now. And
yeah.
it's the same way that people got on Nintendo about doing digital presentation. That is the way now to do most stuff in a sense.
Well, and and like like we've been critical about things the last couple of years,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like I'm pretty sure we've gotten the point across, though, at the same time, that it doesn't surprise us. It doesn't surprise me that things have kind of been slow. Well, I mean, now, because like with COVID affecting some things,
Yeah.
but it's always a struggle at the end of a generation starting a new one,
Hmm.
because so you've got to make a split second decision. Am
Yeah.
I going to make this for the old console, or am I close enough, or are we close enough to beginning this, or are we too far along to try to make it for the new console, and make it ported to the old console? Or like there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, in those last couple of years of a generation,
And
because those developers already have a lot of times either dev kits or whatever for the new consoles.
mhm.
And so there's a lot of things that don't pan out as well, because they're trying to figure out whether they need to make it for the newer console or make it for the older console, or like unfortunately those first couple of years of a new generation, it basically just ends up being games that could have played on the last console, but they just kind of change them and make them look a little bit better for the new console. It's not really ever using the hardware,
Yeah,
so
and this is the first time of this actually ever happening. So you just like, and I agree with you. Like you have to make a split second decision. We've never experienced a new console generation releasing in a pandemic. Like
yeah, yeah,
no one expected how all of this stuff would go.
yeah,
So now that things are getting better, and there might be some normalcy coming in the future and everything, we'll see what happens at E3. Like the digital version of E3 for this year, everybody's going to
yeah.
be able to watch. If we miss it, we could just click, tune in, and watch it.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been saying, and like I'm still taking everything that we've gotten announced this year. I'm still taking all of that with a grain of salt,
Uh huh.
because I still think that there could be a lot of stuff that we've been promised we're getting this year, but just isn't going to happen. Like I still think that it's not too late for the ball to drop on some of the stuff that any of the consoles have announced that we're getting this year, because it's I mean, now the shots, like vaccines are rolling out and everything, but that still doesn't change the fact that a lot of places it's still hard to be in the same place at the same time. So it's still going to change. Things are still going to be different this year. It's not until like at least probably 2022, the end of 2022, that we see things getting a little bit back to normal, honestly. And I know that sucks to hear, or to even have to think that we would have to do this for another year. But I mean, it it's just, we're gonna have to. It's a wait and see thing. But yeah, I this year has just kind of been crazy in a lot of ways, and
I'm
and
I, I'm excited for E3. Sorry, everybody, we
yeah,
jumped topics.
yeah, no, but
This
I mean,
episode.
I'm, and that goes for a lot of things, like that includes the Bethesda stuff, and we can get back to that. But like, now we basically have confirmation, I believe, that Starfield is going to be an Xbox exclusive, and so I'm sure we'll probably see stuff about that this E3. There's a lot of things that the Microsoft teams that they already have are
Yes.
working on that we haven't seen or heard anything about yet. They've basically told us that much, that there's a whole bunch of games that are being worked on over there that they haven't even talked about or
The,
said a peep about. So I
the
mean,
initiative
there's
is the initiative doing Perfect Dark? Who's doing Perfect?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. But there's still a lot of stuff. Like they said, that there's a lot of things in the pipeline
Right,
that they
right.
haven't even talked about yet. So like whether that's stuff that's just further out, I think it's going to be more along the lines of like maybe either bigger projects that are maybe being worked on by smaller teams or whatever. I don't know. Like we'll have to see. But yeah, like the Bethesda stuff, in my opinion, I've seen this too. Like I've seen people saying, that that Microsoft is gonna have to rely on Bethesda to now, like make the good games and stuff like that. And I just don't think that that's true. I think like their studios, have, struggled the last couple of years to really get anything that's hard hitting out. I mean, other, like Flight Simulator, I mean, that game is like a masterpiece, and it's like like it's doing something that has never been done before. Like, I
Yes.
mean, they and the Forza games are always, in my opinion, like 10 out of 10s, like every time. Like, we know that those games are gonna do great, and we're hoping that Halo is gonna do good. Like, we always talk about how we didn't like the story in 5, but you put the story aside and just not focus on that. Halo 5 was a really, really good looking, fun to play game. It just, that story wasn't there, right?
Yes.
So if they can nail that story down, like, I have no worries whatsoever about how the Halo Infinite's gonna look and stuff like that. And and as far as like Fable and stuff goes, like, yeah, those guys may normally make Forza games,
Hmm.
but if they put that effort and that care and love into making Fable, I have no reason to worry about that game whatsoever. So, like, there's a lot of amazing, passionate, creators that are working for Microsoft already that I think will do a great job of making games. And
Yeah.
the Bethesda acquisition is just going to give us more variety. That's how I look at it. I don't look at it as them needing them to be to make good games. I think they already make good games. It's just now we have more to choose from, you
I
know?
think I just don't want them to fall into the the pit of making everything feel the same. I think definitely for me, I mean, I understand they do a lot of first person viewpoint of games and stuff, but I kind of would
Yeah.
love to see what they could do with a third person, what they could do with a 2D or top down stuff.
Yeah.
I think I want to just make sure that if along with the first party the developers, I just really hope that we get a lot of diversity in not just subject matter, but diversity in our art, get diversity in our gameplay. Like I
Yeah.
really want out of Microsoft, I want E through yes, I still want E through M stuff, but I don't want E stuff only just being Forza. I really
Mhm.
want them to like with the developers, I really want them to go out and create something that we're only because it shouldn't be just like
Yeah.
E for Forza, and it shouldn't just be rare games getting that rating. I really want to see
Yeah.
what an E-rated game look like from ZeniMax.
Well,
I really want them to mix it up if they can.
well, I, and I'll say to you, Ed, about that. Just look at Obsidian.
Hmm.
The second that they were acquired, what's the first thing that they really wanted to do for a passion project? They wanted to do the Grounded, which
Yes.
I think is an amazing, phenomenal entry level type of that game that a kid can play, and
Hmm.
is it's and then the same for Rare. Like, when they were acquired by Rare, or Rare got acquired, we seen Sea of Thieves. Like, Sea of Thieves is a really, really fun game that you can play with any age. Like,
Yes.
I don't, I don't worry about that too much, because I feel like Microsoft, if you really pay attention to what these teams that have been acquired by Microsoft are doing, a lot of them are getting to do their passion projects. They're getting to experiment with things that they're not used to, or they want to try. And so I honestly don't think it's going to be any different with the Bethesda stuff.
Hmm.
Now they're gonna have basically a blank check to be like, hey, what's something that you really want to do, but you were worried you wouldn't be able to get funded? Guess what? You can do it, because at the end of the day, If it's not the best game in the world, who cares? You got to try that. You got to do something. Hopefully, you figured out a new mechanic. Hopefully, like it's going on Game Pass. You're still going to get your money for it. We're still, you're still getting paid. It is what it is. Like Microsoft wants those big games that are going to, get the high ratings and stuff like that. But they also want these teams to be able to do something that they're passionate about and that, maybe they wanted to do, but they never thought they would get the chance. Like, like Bleeding Edge. Bleeding Edge was something that, Ninja Theory had like basically made like years ago, but no one wanted to give them the shot to let them finish it and just be able to say that they did it. Like it wasn't beloved by any means by everyone or anything like that. I don't think it was a bad game. I think it's just that genre and that area of gaming that they tried to step into is so dominant by the contenders that are already there that it just wasn't. It was the wrong time. It was a bad time to bring that out. Had it been a couple of years, when they initially wanted to make that game and release it, had it been then, maybe a different story. But yeah, so but I mean, they got to do it at least. Like they can feel good that okay, yeah, maybe it didn't do great, but you know what, we still got to do it and got to get it out of the way so we can free our minds and start thinking of new ideas that we want to do.
And I think we'll have when we have the discussion of new IPs coming to Xbox. I think that's going to be one of the points that they can rely on, that backing. And I know that's been talked a lot and stuff, but I'm just like, when you actually think of new IPs and for any kind of console or even PC, depending on who the publisher is, it's a risk and it's a fight to see if it will be able to have that chance. We now know that with Microsoft, and I hope they stay committed to it, that if Microsoft believes that, hey, if you guys want to try stuff, let us know. Pictures a great idea with a story and gameplay. Show us some ideas. Here you go. Go make it.
Yeah, and I think like one thing that is going to be cool, that I don't think we think enough about with this acquisition is just think of all the talent now, all the talent that's under the Microsoft family, and just imagine like did you end up getting a chance to watch that Bethesda thing at all?
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Okay.
When I get home, like I said, I was telling Jesse, everybody early, like, I got my second shot for the vaccine, and like the effects really kicked in, but they weren't bad. So I wasn't able to watch it after I got home. I fell into darkness. It's AKA I went to sleep.
Yeah.
So,
no, that. Well, anyways, like the my point that I was gonna get at is in that video, the one thing that they talk a lot about is how much all those teams at Bethesda helped one another and they communicated with one another. And then you had the heads of some of the teams communicating with Phil Spencer about stuff before they were even acquired. For years now, Microsoft and Bethesda had kind of, behind the scenes been keeping in contact with one another and trying to help each other out with things. So like now imagine like the people from 343 being able to, communicate and talk with the people from Bethesda about things and share secrets and, like ultimately have chances to maybe, like collaborate with one another and do things and, like be able to help one another finish projects and give ideas for projects. I just like I think all that stuff is what's most exciting to me about
Yeah.
this acquisition is just the fact that you have now so much cool talent and so much great history all under one family, one house now that can ultimately work together and try to help one another out. So
Yes.
it's gonna be fun and exciting. So
Yeah. My $60/$70 will be waiting. I'm sorry. I still I believe Game Pass is a great service. It's still not for me, but I will
yeah,
spend that $60/$70 to pick up their new titles and support them if I can.
yeah, yeah, and they still need that too. So,
Of course.
but yeah, so yeah, so I think we'll move on to my little topic thing that I was talking about,
Yes.
and then we'll wrap it up here after that because I'll be honest, I'm kind of getting hungry. So
I gotta get ready for work.
yeah. So all right. So my topic is I was it was kind of a mix of a couple of different things. We had the announcement of the amazing looking Ninja Turtles game coming out.
Mhm.
And and I was kind of just looking online and I was seeing some of the people like getting down on the theme song for it and things like that. And if you don't know, like the guy who sang the vocals for it was a lead singer for a band called Faith No More. um and yeah, some people liked it, some people loved it. I'm indifferent. Faith No More is a great band, but it's not like among my bands that I would say that I listen to,
Mhm.
like often or whatever. That I'm just indifferent to it all, but I thought it was perfectly fine. But then that kind of got me thinking, like, what, like, if I was to be able to come up with an idea for a game and get to also like then pick what band or what singer I would like to be able to do the soundtrack, like what would I pick, and what genre or what style of game would it be? So do you want to
Okay.
go first?
Yes. So, because we were speaking about Ninja Theory and Microsoft,
Mhm.
I kind of would love a country beat 'em up style game with Alien Ant Farm doing the music, keeping it the fun thing. I think as bunkers as that is, because I love Alien Ant Farm, I just love them so much. I could see them doing the thing and this and the soundtrack and everything. And it's just like farmers fighting like evil cows and pigs and stuff. Like it'd be the most bunkerous things, but I will put my money down on it. So Alien Ant Farm, the fighting game or something by
So
by Ninja Theory.
yeah, so basically it would be like cuz usually for a zombie movie to
Uh-huh.
really do well, or a zombie game to do very well, you basically have to be in a city, because in order to have tons of zombies, you need to be where there was tons of people. So
Yes.
instead, if it's out in the country, if you've got like zombie like or demented weird like animals trying to attack you and stuff, yeah, that would be interesting.
That yeah.
It would be it would definitely be a weird game. I'd have to see it. But yeah, that I could imagine something like that. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add to that, or
so even though this is not considered as Microsoft, um, Elite Beat Agents featuring Boys to Men, the current Boys to Men, and they just do cover songs and you just tap on it and stuff. It just think like they doing it. It's just like hearing those smooth harmonies and stuff. I
Yeah.
think that would be so cool too.
Or like, yeah, or even like a thumper type kind of game like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I if you know me or you've been listening to the shows or me talk about stuff long enough, you know that like I still just love those amplitude and frequency games.
Uh,
Like I honestly I really wish they would have did more of those kind of games. And
yes.
like because there was such a long hiatus between when Amplitude came out, the original one, and then the
Uh,
new one came out. And during that time, I get it, they were doing the Guitar Hero games, but I kind of wish that they would have kept a group of teams working on Amplitude games because like the Amplitude games have always been more about the DJ, like the DJ or the techno remixes
mm,
of regular songs, so they could still do the Guitar Hero thing for when people who want to play the song as it's heard in its normal recorded format, but then had the Amplitude games for people like me who like to hear like dance mixes of different songs. And like the mashup community, between the original and that new Amplitude game, the mashup community was massive. There was so many
yeah.
people doing mashups. They could have been capitalizing on that kind of stuff and making like their own mashups for the
Yes.
Amplitude games. I mean now we're getting stuff like that with the
The
crap,
harmonics
what
one,
is
fuser.
yeah, yeah, Fuser. Now we're getting that kind of stuff through that. But I mean, during that time, they could have been popping out games like that for years now. And I
Uh,
think they would have did well. But
um, Evanescence doing the Castlevania game.
oh,
Paramore.
that I could definitely see an Evanescence Castlevania game. Yeah,
Uh,
that I can definitely see.
Paramore coming together to do Sunset Overdrive too. Dude, the music is the artwork for
Yeah,
Sunset Overdrive too. Well, yeah, that's a sale for me. But what about you,
yeah.
Jesse?
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, going back to your Castlevania, I would like to see I would like to see Evanescence, but I would like to see a collaboration of like Evanescence with something a little bit more harder and go with like a
Oh.
Cradle of Filth. Go with like a Cradle of
Okay,
Filth
I
and
need to hear. I need to hear all of this. Go, go, because I'm excited now.
Cradle, yeah, like Cradle of Filth and Evanescence doing a collaboration. You have the screaming, weird, witchy kind of sounds of Cradle of
Uh,
Filth, and then have the like really good, vocals of Evanescence kind of, like there's, like if you know a lot of screamo bands and stuff like that, they always have the guy who does the screaming, and then there's always though a guy that's really good at singing vocals, and
uh,
they kind of almost mix it together. And sometimes it works. I think a lot of the times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the screaming takes away from the good harmonies and vocals, the more normal singing vocals. But I think if you do it right, a lot of the times it can mix. And I would just like to see something like a really crazy mixture like that, though. Something like Cradle of Filth and Evanescence teaming up and doing a collaboration and doing it for a Castlevania type song or game. I think that would be cool. But the other thing I was thinking of though too for me, like my game that because this weekend I was listening to like a bunch of like Dog Fashion Disco and
uh,
and Tub Ring and like all these like indie bands that a lot of people that are listening to this right now are probably like, what is he talking about? Tub ring. Like that's what I get when I empty the dirty water out of my tub, but yeah, um I so Dog Fashion Disco, their music basically is they take like a almost it's it's hard to explain, but they kind of take that like they've it's got a lot of like flutes and like a lot of instruments going on, but then they have a very very hard like heavy metal sound to their music as well,
Yes.
but it's also got a mix of ska to it. So it's ska, but they've got like a lots of like other kind of instruments going on that aren't always in ska music, but they've also got the very very hardcore like heavy metal guitars going on, and they've got the screaming and the like, and it's very like a lot of their music is very dark. And so like my favorite album of Dog Fashion Discos is called Adultery, and it's the whole album is telling a story, and you're kind of following this like there's like a there's as it sounds like there's adultery going on, and there's a detective at one point that you're following, like where he's following to see what's going on, because he's been hired to spy on the wife or whatever, because there's cheating going on. But at the same time, while all this stuff is going on, there's this murderer, this psycho murderer that goes around just killing, and he's a serial killer, and he picks up people in his car, and like and and so this woman is that's committing adultery ends up hooking up with this serial killer, or it's like I think that's basically how it goes, and then she ends up getting killed, and yeah, and so it goes on this there's this crazy just like story that's kind of going throughout the album. And so it really made me think, like, because one of my favorite games that I really want the franchise to come back is the Condemned series,
Hmm.
the Condemned games. And so I would like to see a new Condemned game with Dog Fashion Disco kind of doing the soundtrack to it, and have it, like, because it would have that darkness to it, but they could also, like, kind of going with the whole theme of the detective trying to find the serial killer. And I think they could do a really cool, like, um even like they could have it like where they do music for the game, but then also like have like a lot of their music shine during like cutscenes, or
Hmm.
during the stuff where they're kind of getting to almost do the narration of the game, um the way that they do it in their music. So like, yeah, I could see, and they're like I said, they're really good about just doing like all over the place. Their music can be, just sound like classical, like kind of like music you'd hear like at a fancy bar in the 40s or whatever kind of style, like just the jazzy kind of piano and instrument kind of sound they can do, and that noir kind of private eye type, during that kind of days, that jazzy kind of music that they had. Like they can do that, they can do the really really hardcore dark, metal stuff, they can do the ska type upbeat, but they're talking about really crazy dark stuff. Like
Yeah.
they like one of their famous songs is called Pogo the Clown, and the whole thing is them singing about, like Pogo the clown, the serial killer, and the whole thing is all super upbeat, but the lyrics into it are
It's
everything are
dark.
really super dark, and it's just such a cool, like, the way they do music is just so interesting, and I would just love to see them do a soundtrack for a game, like actually do the beats of the story, do the, get, like, really give them full freedom to be able to really narrate the story the way that they do, and play the music when things
Uh,
are going on. I think it would be fun.
I got a game for you, and I got kind of like two artists. And one is more of a shout out. So, Mark Echoes, Getting Up. Um, I think I would love like the chill hop producers that's be on YouTube to come. But shout out to also I love Brandon. Hint hint, I did a 1v1 with him. You guys will have to
Yeah.
check it out. I would kind of love him to produce a soundtrack for them. He does a great, like, he produces great like hip hop, jazz
Yeah.
mixture of stuff, and so I would
Yeah.
love for that to happen with like a Mark Echoes getting up like remaster or follow up to that game. I kind of hope they re-release that game. I never got a chance to play it, but it was just like it was one of those things that with Mark Echo was just like Echo was big back in the early 2000s, and a little bit of the 90s, and
Yeah.
we kind of didn't get the hip hop representation in gaming. So to see
Yeah.
now, definitely with chill hop being a big thing nowadays, I would love to see that game come back and get in that kind of treatment. So yeah, the chill hop producers, and I love Brandon. I would love to see him produce the soundtrack to a game.
You know what? I think Chill Hop would be like a really good choice too for doing, like, like the in-world, like, music for a lot of like platformers and stuff.
Mhm.
Like when you're, how like in a lot of platformers, there's just kind of like a really, catchy, just kind of easy listening kind of like tune in the background, while you're playing through a level. And I think, yeah, Chill Hop would be really good for that kind of stuff. Or like even like a beat 'em up, kind of thing,
Yeah.
like where, or not, well, maybe not so much a beat 'em up, but like a Ratchet and Clank, or you know like that kind of game, like where you're kind of just doing like stuff almost in an open world, or like Super Lucky's Tale kind of game, or
Yes.
or like the a new Donkey Kong, country type kind of game or something.
Yeah.
Like those kind of games where you can have the music kind of going on in the background while you're playing the level. Yeah, that would be a good, because I don't know, maybe it exists somewhere where we've got something like that, but I want to say that we haven't really gotten something like that. So,
My
but
last my last game is gonna be so weird. I could see Michael Bublé doing a jazz album for the Mario Brothers, like like do a Paper Mario with him just doing jazz bits and stuff. Like I think I'm sorry everybody if I'm coming with these wacky ideas, but like I could see that happening and everything.
I would I would, just because of a skit. There's a couple of skits that he did on the Tim and Eric show,
Uh,
the Tim and Eric's awesome show, uh, comedy show or whatever. Josh Groban was
yeah.
on that, and like he did a really good job of just doing like goofy ass songs, but trying to sing them like seriously.
Uh-huh.
And so like I could see him doing like a fun goofy kind of game where he could like sing songs in it and stuff, or even play a character, like the character, uh voiceover for a character, like a funny character that sings or something. Like, yeah, that would be kind of fun, because I just like him as a dude. Like, I think he's funny. He's super funny, and like, like whatever, about his music, whether you like it or not, like he's just super talented and really good at that, like really, really
Yes.
powerful voice singing stuff, and he that would be interesting, but I would personally I would love to see like a sci-fi kind of action game as well. And this will be my last one, and we'll wrap up the show here. But I would like to see like a sci-fi um or even something like an Aliens game, something like that. But have like one of my all-time favorite metal bands, Fear Factory, doing a soundtrack for them. They One of their songs was on Frequency, the very
Uh-huh.
first game that they released before Amplitude.
Yeah.
And they had a really cool, they've got a really good album where they had all different kinds of DJs do like dance and techno remixes of their full entire album. And and it sounds really cool, but like I could see them doing something like that, and be like a action kind of game, even like a near automata type kind of game or something, like with a really rockin' like heavy metal industrial, well, they're industrial metal, which is like a mix of techno music with heavy metal, and so like I could see something like that with like a either a near automata game, or like I said, like an aliens like type kind of like futuristic game. Something like that would be cool. Just having
Yes.
them rock out while I'm just shooting a whole bunch of aliens. Which, a matter of fact, that might just be what I end up doing, is when that aliens game comes out, I'm just gonna be blasting Fear Factory while I'm shooting aliens.
Right. Uh,
so so yeah, that I just thought that would be kind of a it would be really neat if we ever did get to see where an actual band got to like help make a game, like create the style of the game and get to do the music and soundtrack for it, would be kind of cool.
yes.
Just getting to see like what kind of crazy ideas they would come up with for a game, that would mix with their talent of making music. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I'm with you.
All right. Well, that was a good show. What was like a little over an hour or something.
Yeah.
so so yeah, I'm ready to eat. Oh God, I'm
I'm ready
hungry.
to get dressed. I might hit KFC and get some. I can't do
Ooh,
the
yes.
I can't do the Nashville today. I have to work.
Well,
If KFC
yeah,
was open after work, I'll get the Nashville one flavor is so good. Like when I talk to you
and I'll
about it,
tell you, and I can tell you right now, it is still to this day the best tasting Nashville hot thing that I've had.
and
I've had
I
I've had at
100%
least
agree
three
with
or
you.
four different things so far. Plus, last night, me and the wife, we went out and we were trying to look around and try to find what kind of stove and all those kind of fun stuff that we're gonna get, because all of our appliances in our kitchen are garbage right now, so they all need to be replaced, including our dishwasher now,
Huh?
everything. So yeah, so that we went and we were looking at the whole thing, but we afterwards we went to Buffalo Wild Wings for dinner, and they have Nashville hot chicken on their list of sauces now that you can get. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, it it basically just tasted like, how you can buy the can of chili beans,
Yeah.
where it's got like a chili, like literally tastes like it's like chili sauce inside with just beans.
Yes.
It almost tasted like they literally just took the sauce from the chili beans can and they just poured it over the top of the wings. Like it just tasted like chili. I don't like I've noticed that. Like the Nashville hot chicken,
Yes.
every single time I've tried it is a completely different taste with every single thing I've tried. There is no like quintessential Nashville hot flavor apparently. So, yeah, so far still KFC's Nashville hot flavoring has still been by far my favorite. So,
Yeah, see, like I said, if they were open after work, I would get it because
yeah.
it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
so good. So yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Where can we find you, Ed? Where can people go to see what you're putting out there?
You guys can find me at Twitter at that retro code. Come check out Nintendo Power Block on Mondays, 7:30, 8:30 p.m. When you guys, by the time you guys see this episode, we have had our quiz show featuring our elite block agents. This time it's going to be Laurent from Crossroads, Galatrad, and David. They are my contestants playing the game. And you also can find me on Boss Rush Podcast. You also can check out my writing and all of our writing on bossrushgames.com. And if you want to be a part of our writing team, hit us up at Boss Rush Games. And we also have a Discord where you guys could be hitting up. We're looking for a lot of writers. So if you guys feel like you could come on and you want to write some great stuff for us, then yeah, come on. We'll make sure that we'll get the link out and everything and the people that you could talk to. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And Optional Opinion on SoundCloud and World War One Podcast at Podbean.com. I'm going to be getting some more Optional Opinion episodes up. I know it's been a long time, but I have been a busy person. So
Yeah.
there's new episodes coming up for it. Yeah. And you guys want to check out some of my own personal writing at Boss Rich Games. I have the top 10 limited edition hardware. So do give it a read. You will be surprised of the hardware that I chose and what we see the number one spots.
Game Boy. It's gonna be Game Boy, I bet.
You actually do. To tell you the actual truth, there's not a lot of Nintendo on there. There's more.
I was just joking, anyways. I mean, don't get me wrong. The original Nintendo is an amazing system.
Dude, me and Corey was talking about the Halo.
Game Boy, yeah.
We was talking about the Halo 4 Xbox 360 because I've never seen the Halo 4 Xbox 360. Dude, that system looks amazing. That controller,
yeah,
crazy bunkers. I think that was like, I'm like, I was shocked to see it. Didn't know nothing about it, but yeah, that thing is hot.
Well. Yeah, and you didn't really have a 360. You weren't paying attention to 360 too much during that time. So I mean, it makes sense that you missed out on it. But they had the 360 was the, like, in my opinion, the king as far as when it came to special editions. I mean, Xbox One had some really good ones too, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But like 360 is when it really started to step up about the getting the special edition game consoles.
I kind of said that Microsoft, when it comes to limited edition consoles, Microsoft is the best at it. Like whatever their regular console is, the special editions make it better. Yeah, go read that list if you guys are interested.
That's and like I was gonna do this. I know it's kind of early, even when this episode comes out. But me and Ed. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because me and Ed got to sit down with a podcast that I listened to, and we did a 2v2 with them that will be coming up in April. And I know they were asking for information and stuff last night because they wanted to tease it a little bit. So. It's not coming out until April, unfortunately, but that's fine because we've got a whole bunch of good 1v1s and stuff coming up. I think the most recent one was Austin, I believe. So go check out his 1v1.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's the Stephen Kyle podcast. So if you I can give you a little heads up. You could go check out their show and the Stephen Kyle podcast, and just kind of just check out and see if you like it, and because that was a fun episode that we got to record with them. So I'm looking forward to hopefully maybe even doing something with them again down the road. So because I believe the offer is there for if any of us wanted to come and do something on their show. We
Yes.
had them on our show, but I think the offer is there if we're willing to accept it, that we could go on, potentially go on their show. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. But yeah, as far as where you can find me obviously every week here on Arsenal X, and also most weeks on Boss Rush, and you can find me online as Phantom NXS in most places. So, all right, let's throw up the X because we're about to exit. All right.
Bye, everybody.